All right, so hey everybody, welcome to the Blerd Library. It is Keisha, and today we have the amazingly talented writer, poet, essayist, author LaToya Jordan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be with you today.
Yes, this is exciting because I put out that call on it was Threads, and
Yep.
when you said, "Hey, I write Black horror," and I was like, "Black horror, women, yes, I love." Let me tell you, this novella, and I think I emailed you about this. This novella had me like at work, just like and I work from home, so it's over here, and I'm just sitting, looking over, making sure everything's okay. But I'm finishing the book at work, like great.
So good.
All right, so I guess let's get into this interview.
Okay.
So much of your writing centers around Black motherhood, feminism, family, parenting. I guess what was your canon event that led you to that specific focus in your writing?
So I think I had already always been writing poetry. So I started out as a poet. Um, Pre-motherhood, I was a poet, and a lot of my poetry has to do with women and specifically mothers and young girls. I don't know. I That's just seems to be what I'm most drawn to writing about. And obviously, I became a mother in 2012, and then that sort of shifted my focus because I was in this whole new world of motherhood. And I don't know, it just became like there was so much more that I felt like I had to write about becoming a mother, even wanting to become a mother, but once you're in it, realizing how hard it is. So there was just so many stories that like ideas that came from like late night breastfeeding that popped into my head. So I think ever since then, ever since I became a mother, I've shifted my focus a little bit. It's still women, girls. It's always been feminist, but yeah, becoming a mother. So 2012, that's when it changed.
No, I definitely get motherhood is life changing in so many ways, and you spend at least I found that I spent a lot of it having to heal myself and then like try to look forward as well, heal the past and then look forward to make sure that they're okay. So yeah, definitely understand. Um so let's go, speaking of motherhood and all of that, let's go into to the woman in the pink hat. Like I said,
Yes.
phenomenal story. Can you give
Thank you.
like a brief summary of it?
Yeah, so it follows the protagonist of the story is Jada, and she was the leader of a movement. She was one of these young black and brown women whose uteruses were stolen in what they thought was a birth control experiment, but it turned out to be that they were stealing these women's uteruses and, and giving them to, or I guess the highest donor, but the highest people who could pay, mostly white women, so that they could have their own babies. And so she led a movement called the Sioux, and these are the women who had their uteruses stolen. Um, she was the leader. She was in the streets. She was trying to make change. And I mean, this is not a spoiler because it's on the back cover, but she ends up committing a horrible crime and having to go to prison, but it's sort of a new type of prison, a reimagined prison where the women there are, they have shorter sentences, and it's like a school, like college like environment where they are trained to, when they leave the prison, to go out and be leaders in their community. So it's about her experience recounting what led to her being there, and then her experience actually in the center. That's what it's called.
Yeah, like I said, it's absolutely phenomenal. It creates so many conversations, but I guess that's like the purpose of it, because it is part of the conversation pieces uh selection from Aqueduct Press. So this was like my first introduction, like conversation pieces, or I guess stories that are supposed to create those conversations. Can you go into like some detail about how you, I guess, connected with them, the partnership that you created with them at Aqueduct Press?
Yeah. When I finished the story and I was looking for it to get published, I started with literary journals. Since it wasn't a novel and it wasn't a short story, I looked for journals that published novellas. I got a few rejections, some nice rejections. And then I said, let me look for a publisher. I'm seeing novellas. Let me look for a publisher. And the way that I came to Aqueduct Press is that I researched some women that I had read their work and I loved their work. So I was like, let me look at their bios. And I was reading, and it was like Nisi Shaw, there's Tara Campbell. She writes these great stories. Andrea Hairston is another person. And so I was like, oh, Aqueduct Press, Aqueduct Press, Aqueduct Press kept coming up. So I went to their website, and it says like publishing feminist science fiction. I said, okay, my book is feminist science fiction. That's perfect. So I read their submission requirements and I submitted, and they accepted. So that was pretty amazing. And accepted as part of the conversation pieces. I think my book is it's like 87. There's more that are, there's
Yes.
more in yes.
So if you guys, they actually have a list.
Yes, and there are more. I mean, that was the list at time of this being published, but if you go to their website, there's more coming out, and it's I guess a continuing conversation about feminist sci-fi and how the past, the present, and the future, like how what has been done in the past is going to inform our future, is already in our present, and how I think all these books, it's not just book. It's not like I'm a novella. There's novels, there's poetry, there's essays, and how the landscape of feminist science fiction, and how we deal with a lot of issues. Like a lot of them deal with similar issues and how they speak to each other. So I'm happy to be part of the conversation series and conversation pieces, and hopefully this book, I mean, I know it's already caused lots of conversation among my friends and people who've written to me about it.
I mean, it has, like, you won a Shirley Jackson Award for it, 2020.
Yes. Yes, which I still can't believe.
Yes, like that's so exciting. Like it's I want everybody to be talking about it, because it is definitely a conversation starter. It is definitely an amazing story. Um to continue on with Aqueduct Press, this cover, I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw it, went right over my head. I was like, I don't know
Yes.
what this is, but okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I looked further on the page, and it says cover illustrations in bowl and uterus, and I was like, oh, oh. So
Yeah.
wanted to, like, who came up with this design, and like how did we get to this?
Actually, so it's funny because when I had pictured the cover, like honestly, I didn't picture it until the end. Um, I wasn't thinking this. But Catherine Willem, she's the managing editor of Aqueduct Press,
Mhm.
and she wrote to me and she was like, I have an idea. She was like, people like I mean, it's both kind of gross and gory, but it's also subtle because you don't necessarily know what it is until you've read the story. Like it comes from, there's an image, there's a scene where I think it's where Jada's imagining what the surgery was like, since she was obviously under, what the surgery was like, to remove her uterus, and imagining them taking it out, and it was deflated and in a silver bowl. And so when she said that, I was like, ooh, that's a good idea. But it looks like a hunk of meat. I mean, on a silver platter. Yes.
No,
Yes.
I thought like once I read that, I was like, "Oh, this is fascinating." Like, because like I said, like it can completely go over your head, and you could be fine with it. But like when you know what it is and then connect it to,
Yeah.
oh, it means so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It
um,
does.
yes.
Yeah.
So in this story with the center, uh AI robots and other high level technology play a major role in Jada's experience at the center. Can you go into detail about the inspiration to include AI and those other technologies in that specific way? Because I know, like, Jada's therapist was a robot, and that played a big part in the.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's so funny because this started as a short story, and it started really, it was really focused on Jada and sort of like the journal parts, the audio parts. And so one of the critiques that I got in earlier drafts was, I mean, there were two. It was like, this should be longer. This is more than a story, like a short story. This could be much longer, but you need more of her present day and her in this center. And so I had to sit down because I hadn't really thought about what it looked like to be in the center. And I mean, the 2040s are not that far away. And so I was thinking about what kind of technology we have and what we've seen. And you know that robot, I've seen her online. What's her name? I think it's Sophia. It's like she's got like a face, a human face, but the rest of her body is all robot, and she says weird things that makes you scared of AI. So I was like, okay, it has to be like, how would they improve on this type of robot in the future? So that's where that came from. And then some other things, like I was thinking about, like down to like in their cafeteria, the food is printed. And so it was just a lot of like Googling and finding out what kind of technology there was some technology I didn't even know that people are actually working on right now. And so I read about printed food and how that could be something that could help in the future with climate change and crops. So I was thinking about, I was like, okay, so that could be something that could be in this. And then thinking about, it wants to be, the center is a reimagined um, justice center, supposed to not be like prisons as we know them today. So people are still confined. How can we make that better? So like the windows that have scenes from outside, so it makes them feel like they're looking outside when it's actually not outside. It's just images that they put up there. So I was just thinking about the types of what we have now and what we'll have in the future, and how that could help or hurt. I mean, I think the AI part is really, it's creepy to me, but I wanted to
It is.
explore that.
No, it is very much creepy because you're looking at someone who gets creeped out at the little robot that goes through BJ's and just like so a therapist as a robot like bothered me on so many levels, and I understood Jada like completely, like separation we can't.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think I had fun trying to imagine what will happen, but I hope some of the things don't come true in the future.
Yeah, very much. There's a lot where I was like, this feels too real. I really
Yeah.
don't want any of this to come true.
Yes.
Unfortunately, like especially like what's going on right now with with Amber Thurman and you know what was the other woman's name? But it's both in Georgia, and
Hmm.
it's like yes, your story, but like it's non-real. You can kind of put this in another box and say no, this probably won't happen, but there's so much that is so connected to what we have right now that scares
Exactly.
completely. I think that was the biggest fear for me out of everything. It's like, no, this feels plausible.
Yes. Yes.
This feels plausible.
Unfortunately, it does.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it does.
So throughout the story, the reader learns about the creation of the grassroots organization, SU or Sue or Stolen Uteruses, and the support system it becomes to Jada and the women impacted by the system. Um, so, what are your thoughts on the role of grassroots activism in our society?
That's a that's a big question. So when I was researching this, obviously, like I was thinking about BLM. I was thinking about Black Panther Party. Obviously, I was thinking about the Women's March because obviously that's where
Yeah,
the pink hat comes from. And obviously, I think the grassroots movements are great. But I was thinking a lot about the people who become the faces and the leaders and what they're going through. A lot of times, some of these people, like obviously Jada is not real, but some of these people who become leaders of movements have been through trauma, and now they're expected to be the face, and they're in the public eye. And I was thinking it must be hard to have to carry this much weight, that like something bad happened to you or your family, and now you are trying to fight for justice, and you have all these people behind you, and then maybe you have all this money coming in to help you, and all these people want to help you, but you're still a human being. Like Jada's still a human being, and she ends up going in the wrong direction, and like committing this crime, killing someone. um So I was thinking, yeah, I wanted to have. We've seen like people at the top of movements like fall from grace, um, and I'm curious. Maybe I'll explore this in another story, but about what happens to the movement afterwards, like how the people in the movement might feel betrayed, how people might break away from it. Um, So, I mean, obviously, grassroots is great, but I think we have to remember that people are human beings, and we can't, like, we put these people on a pedestal, and if they falter, we're quick to, like, throw them away and even throw the cause away. Like, the cause becomes the person,
yeah,
and it's not about the person, it's about the cause. I hate when people are suddenly and I see this a lot on social media, where someone becomes a face, they fall away, and then that people are like, nope, no more, I'm not giving you money. And I'm like, okay, but it's not about that person. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's like we forget, like you said, we forget the humanity of that person and the fact that they can and should have flaws, you know? Um, it is unfortunate that we do, as society, you know, disregard movements just because someone did wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that the cause isn't worthy anymore. That yeah. Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. With this being part of the conversation pieces collection, what is one conversation, whether it's a big part of the conversation or just like a small takeaway? What's one conversation that you want the reader to have with others who may or may not have read the book?
I've been thinking about this. I think I would love for people to have a conversation about principles, about a lot of people, we all have our principles and what we stand for, but then sometimes when you're faced with something that affects you personally, sometimes people are quick to abandon their principles. And a lot of times I feel like I see this when it comes to their children or something to do, like in this case, in the book, um, the woman in the pink hat, she she abandons, she's this
Totally.
feminist person who's on the side of all women allegedly, and then she gets involved in this because she really wants to have a baby. It doesn't matter where the uterus came from. She's going to ignore all her doubts or about it and throw away her principles. So I would like to, I think that's, I mean, obviously when like when the women's march, the first women's march, there was a lot of images and like black women and women of color talking about how white it was and how
Yeah.
white women being allies. And so and like that, I don't mean the conversation should be specific like white women should have a conversation, but I think all people thinking about what you stand for and do you really stand for it. If something, like, think about your children, think about yourself. Like, I mean, I had a challenge. This is totally not to do with the book, but I was a foster mother. I'm not a foster mother anymore, but I was a foster mother, and that is something that challenged me as a person in like what I got into it to do versus when you have a baby in your home and you're like, I just want to keep this baby forever. But it's like, that's not what I got in this for. I got into this because I want to help children and families in need. So it's, but
Yeah.
it's like there are things that challenge your principles, and you you think you are one way. So I would love to have a conversation, a greater conversation about this because it applies to so many things. It applies to this election, it
Yeah.
majorly. It applies to like, you know, who you're gonna vote for, who you're gonna, and not just as president, like as your school board, like I want us to have conversations about that, like who we really are and who we really like, what we really stand for.
That's a great conversation that people should have. Um, because principle is definitely like having principle, standing on them is definitely something that happens in the book. Oh wow. And it's such a hard conversation to have. Like it
Yeah, it is a hard conversation, but I think that people should be more honest with themselves. If they're not going to be honest with everyone, honest with yourself, because I think, and we can see this on social media, like a lot of people, there's a lot of, I want to say like grandstanding on social media, but like if you do this, you're that, and I would never, and you're hard. And that's what people say online, but you can also see they might act a different way when it comes to
Yeah.
their mom or their little sister or their, I just want people to be honest with themselves and with each other about what your principles are. Like if you stand for one thing but you say but not for my, like, oh, but not for my, if that happened to me, I don't know, then you have to, then maybe don't judge other people as much as you do online, I guess.
Yeah, no, that does happen. That, being online, especially in the environment we're in currently, with what's happening overseas, with what's happening in Palestine, like, it is really hard.
Yes. Yes.
Hard.
Yes.
But like you're right, it should happen. These conversations should happen. People should be more honest with themselves. Maybe get offline for a little bit.
Have more face to face conversations.
Yes, very
Maybe that's what we need to do.
true. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do now. And not to, I guess I am switching topics really hard. But one of your essays, I think it's the essay Zigzag Mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
It caught my eye. One, because that term, I've only seen it a handful of times. I guess I wanted to know what it was about.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's an essay about my C-section that I had with my daughter. And it's in a book. It's called My Cesarean.
Uh,
I'm going to get the title. My Cesarean, 21 Mothers on Their C-Sections or something. It is called My Cesarean. I can't remember
right.
exactly what's after the colon, but I know it is 21 mothers on their C-section experiences before and after. Um, so the essay is The Zigzag Mother. I had written a poem not right after my C-section, but like in the year or two after it. And that poem sort of became this essay. And the poem was imagining my C-section like the magic trick where the magician has a woman is in a box, and then they put the metal plates in, and then they move like the middle box moves, and the person looks like they're like not sawed, like they're in three parts, and they're like waving in one box, and the feet are shaking. And so the essay is about, like, it starts with that feeling like I was like split open and moved around during my C-section, and how the C-section, basically the essay is about how the C-section made me not want to have another C-section. Like, it was very traumatic, and how I didn't want to have another C-section, but I wanted another child. And then when I thought I would be ready to have another child, I ended up having a fibroid that tried to take my life. Maybe severely anemic. I was like ready to keel over. Anyway, I had to have surgery. And then actually the fibroid surgery is kind of what led to the idea of this book. So that was in 2016. And so it's about how this, like, having that surgery. After I had that surgery, it was like, if you want another kid, you have to have a C-section. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And it just talks about like what it's like to be a Black woman in this country when our mortality rate when it comes to childbirth is so high, and like dealing with doctors and just being afraid, like, hearing all the stories of women, like, um, who've had who've died, who've had horrible experiences. So that's what my essay is about.
I mean, it sounds amazing. I, this healthcare system, I don't want to generalize, but like it honestly does feel like they don't care about Black women, or they don't believe we can be in pain. They don't believe, you know, they don't take
Yeah,
it seriously.
yeah. So basically, that's what the essay is about, and then it talks about, like, I think when I wrote it, we were sort of at the beginning of our foster parent journey. Um, so it talks a little bit about that too.
That's amazing. I have to read it now because like the title alone was like I was like
Yeah.
looks amazing. I need I need to read.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um. All right, so we've talked about To the Woman in the Pink Hat. It's already won an award. You have
Yay.
right? Yay, we're gonna celebrate that.
Yes.
You have so much work out there already. What's coming up in the future? What are we doing or thinking about in terms of projects?
So I have drafts of stories that I need to finish. It's hard to write. Hard to You know what? It's actually easier for me to write and get a draft out than it is. It's hard to revise in my household with my children, with a full time job, and I work full time as a writer. So it's also my brain space sometimes because I'm at a computer all day. I'm interviewing people. I'm writing stories. I'm like using this writing muscle all day, and then I come home sometimes and I'm like, I don't want to work on my own stuff. But I am actually just yesterday I booked a solo hotel stay for myself so I can revise. I need like a large weekend chunk of time to revise. So I am going to work on this story. I hope to finish it. I feel like I've been working on this story forever, but it's a ghost story about mom guilt. So
Mm.
that's what I'll say about that. So I'm excited to finish this story. So hopefully it will be done in October. I want to finish it by Halloween. I feel like that's a good deadline for a ghost story.
Yeah, sure. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I have another story that I want to finish. What I would like to do is I have these stories that are obviously centered around motherhood, and they are like sci-fi, horror, um, and I want to put them together. I want to do a collection, so I just have to finish the stories.
well, when you do put it together, please let me read them because
Of course.
motherhood is like one. I don't think we have enough stories in speculative fiction where it's about motherhood and like what we go through.
Mm-hmm.
So please, I would love to read them because
Yes, definitely.
all right. And so my last two questions, I always end my interviews with these two. What are you currently reading or watching or doing? You know?
Um, So, like, I know I read this question. Like, what am I currently? Um, I did finish a book recently. I haven't figured out what I'm reading next. I finished this book called Hum. It's by Helen Phillips. Um, it deals with AI and motherhood. It's creepy. Um, it's also set in the future. So I finished that. That was good to read. I'm doing a reading with her soon, and I already like her work because she writes her the two books that I've read of hers have been like motherhood, creepy motherhood stories, which is obviously right up my alley. So I read that book, very creepy but good. I what I'm hoping to start tonight is I want to watch what is it, Agatha All Along, the new
Yes. Yes.
yes, because I loved WandaVision so much. So much that I've been waiting for this. I couldn't watch it on Wednesday. I'm like, Friday night, don't have anything to do tomorrow, don't have to go to work. I'm watching Agatha All Along. I've been waiting for her, so I'm
Same.
excited to see how that is. That was my husband and my family, they're like my kids, they're into the Marvel universe, and I would like watch but be like, eh. But WandaVision made me, I was like, this is my Marvel universe. Like, do more of this WandaVision stuff and I'm with you.
Yeah. So
So
it was really good. So same. We're watching Agatha All Along tonight too.
awesome.
The week is so busy. So you're right. Friday, we're watching it too. So
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy
Thank you. You too.
it. All right. And final question. Um, it's a question I ask everyone, but specifically Black women who come onto this channel because rest. We're told that we have to be everything. We have to be the best, and we give so much of ourselves. Um, so I guess I wanted to know, what is your definition of rest, and do you currently practice it?
um, I was just talking to my mother last night, and my mother was telling me, you need to rest. And I said, I know. I've been going hard these past couple of months. So that one of the ways, like rest for me is doing things that I love. Like, so I booked this solo writing retreat for me, and what I usually like to do. Like a lot of writers like to go to a cabin in the woods, and that's not for me. I like to go to like a little city. I live in New York City, so I like to go to another city close, reachable by train, and where I can get a hotel room, but I can like there's a bookstore nearby, there's coffee shops, there's maybe a museum, there's stuff for me to do by myself to take in. So like I do write, I do like to go out to eat. Like I usually like to go someplace where I know I have a friend there so I can do a dinner one night and see a friend that I haven't seen in a while. I have already started planning, like, I'm going to go to a museum. I'm going to go to this bookstore. So it's like, I like to go take in art. I like to sit on the couch and watch a show that I haven't been able to see because some shows I can't watch in front of my children. so, um, but yeah, I haven't been doing enough rest lately, so I am looking forward to my rest coming up in October. Um, and then part of it is also trying to this is a harder part, like turn my brain off from all the things that need to be done.
Mm.
Because even when I try to go to sleep at night, I'm like, I get woken up by like, oh, that thing, I got to do that thing for this kid and that thing for that kid, and I got to make these appointments, and so it's I haven't figured out yet how to do that. So I would like some people to tell me some more things about how to do that. But I think creating these like annual little getaways by myself helps reset and helps also see that like my family will be okay without me for a couple of days, and they don't have to do things my way, they can do things their way, like letting go. So yeah.
Oh, that's actually amazing. I have to take that advice and just go somewhere.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be like I'm going somewhere in New Jersey. Like I'm not
Nice.
it's not even about like, like an expensive trip, just somewhere where you could just like go do something that I've never been to that part of New Jersey before, so I'm going to go explore and feel like I'm away and um, immersing myself in something just for myself.
I love that. I love that so much. I hope you get to rest and reset in October.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hope you plan something for yourself.
Uh, that's one of the reasons why I always ask, because I'm like, I don't know how. I don't know. I don't know how. And I need the help and the advice. Fingers crossed I do something. All right. This has been awesome. For everyone watching, listening, please, if you get a chance, read To the Woman in the Pink Hat. This is a phenomenal novella. Like I said, you will. You will. At least I did. You will reading this and forgetting everything else. So yes. Can you tell everyone where they could find you before we go?
Well, they can find the book at Aqueduct Press, and at Amazon, they can find me at LaToyaJordan.com. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, but of course, I don't remember my handles right now. But I'm sure. Okay. Yes.
All right. So this has been. I hope that you enjoyed your time here, and I wish you all even more success. Like you could.
Thank you so much.
I wish you more success. So for everyone else, we will see you next time. Later.
Thank you. Bye.